All right, I think I'm live. Hello, everybody. I'm going to wait a minute here and wait for a few people to jump on, hopefully. All right, well, I just looked at my wife and she said no, the show must go on. So, all right, welcome, everyone. My name is John. And for those of you that don't know me, I, along with my wife, Amanda, we are the co-founders of Devil Dog Petco. And I apologize ahead of time if I appear a little bit nervous because I am. I've done quite a bit of public speaking, but I don't do many lives, and being in front of just a camera, I don't know, it's a little awkward, but we'll try to stumble through this and have some fun and answer some questions. So let's see. The title of tonight's live is I Like Big Racks and I Cannot Lie. Do me a favor, and if you're here because you saw the word rack and you wanted to see what this is all about, do me a favor and drop the word rack down below in the comments. All right, so just to clarify things from the get-go, these are the racks that I'm actually talking about. What you see in that picture is a big old elk with a monster rack. And tonight we're going to be talking about antler chews, racks, where they come from, why your dog should have them, and a little bit about safety, which ones are best for your dogs, things like that. So first, let's talk about the racks themselves. So as I showed in this picture, this is where they originate from nature, as you can see. So let's talk about how they go from being on this big animal and make their way over to your living room for your pup. It's actually pretty incredible. Every spring, these elk, and actually, you know what, let me take a step back. First, let's talk about the different types of racks and antlers that exist out there. There's basically three. There's moose, there's deer, and there's elk. And I usually go in that order because that's the order of their hardness. So moose is by far the hardest antler out there. Chewing on a moose chew is basically like giving a piece of rock to your dog. They're very, very solid, very little marrow. Not something that most dogs enjoy. Then in the middle is deer. You're going to see that deer has a really hard outer casing and only a little bit of marrow. And then on the third level of hardness is the elk chews. And those are the ones that we focus on. We've actually sold all three in the past. And by far, I mean, I'm talking probably 9 out of 10 dogs prefer elk, just because there's a good balance between hardness and plenty of marrow for the dog to chew on. With with moose, there's basically no marrow. With deer, depending on which part of the rack, it's very hit and miss. But for the most part, it's just that hard outer casing. And then with the elk, there's a nice balance of that casing, which gives the dog a good challenge and keeps the antler lasting for a while. But there's a good amount of marrow in there too. So, like I said, we've sold all three in the past, but at this point, we've stopped selling moose and deer, and we solely focus on elk. Because I believe it's the healthiest and best for your pup, and we've seen through the feedback that we've gotten that dogs love them the most. So those are the three types of antlers that we deal with. Hey, what's up, Anas? Thanks for joining us, bud. So where do we get them from? So there's obviously elk and deer and moose all over the country. We specifically focus on the elk that live in the Rocky Mountain region of the U.S., out in the west part of the country. And every spring, these animals literally start dropping their racks. I mean, if you YouTube some videos, it's pretty fascinating. They literally shake their heads and the racks just fall off onto the ground. So this happens across the country, up and down the Rocky Mountain region. Millions and millions and millions of pounds of racks get shed every year. And believe it or not, it takes them just one summer to regrow that entire massive thing that I just showed you a little bit ago. It's actually quite a scientific phenomenon. I mean, during their peak season growing time, they literally can grow up to 1 to 2 inches per day. And what's happening is there's a lot of blood flowing through there. it's just building and building and growing and growing. And then once it reaches the point where it's at full maturity, the blood drains out, it starts to calcify, and then it just gets really hard and full of marrow. And then they have that throughout the season until it's time for them to shed it, and then it just repeat the process over again the following year. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's the ultimate renewable chew, renewable resource, and something that's literally coming right from nature. So as far as how we gather them, there's a group of people out there called shed hunters, and they actually literally throw on big backpacks and will spend sometimes days, weeks at a time just traversing the mountainsides of the US, and in our case, the Rocky Mountain region, just searching for these things. Sometimes they're by themselves with other shed hunters. There's hey Jody, hey Scott, thanks for jumping on. They're out there searching for this stuff. They train dogs to sniff them out. And this is actually I got a picture of one so you can see what it looks like. I mean, they literally are going up and down the sides of mountains, valleys, all across these different areas that they know elk roam, and they just gather them up, strap them to their backs, or if they've got, ATVs or whatever, and they just gather as many as they can, because what happens is once they've got a good amount gathered up, they have relationships with buyers, and these are the people that we work with. We actually have one in particular that we work with that's one of the largest and most reputable in the country, and he's got relationships with shed hunters pretty much all up and down the Rocky Mountain region, and he goes and just buys them, cash in hand from these shed hunters, and takes them back to his facility. He'll, in any given year, I mean, we're talking, probably a couple $1 million worth of racks that our supplier will buy, and then he works with people like me, takes our order, cuts them up into different sizes, and then ships them out to us in these big 1,000+ pound pallets. So that's basically how we gather them. There's a few other places that people, antler sellers, get their sheds from. One is farms. We don't deal with farms at all, just because of our background in dog rescue and being cruelty free. Not all farms operate this way, but I do know that some will basically go, if they need if they need more antlers, they'll go and literally put the elk or the deer or whatever into these little troughs that they can't move, and they'll just saw them off. I've been told that it doesn't hurt the animal, but come on, that's got to be a lot of stress, and it's just not the way we want to do business. And then obviously another source of racks is from hunters who shoot the deer and then remove the racks after the deer or elk have fallen. And not that we have any issues with ethical hunting, but one of the reasons that we don't deal in those kind of racks either is because when the rack isn't fully mature, what happens is you're still going to have some of that blood in there, and it's not going to be fully calcified. So that's when you run into issues with either staining or a chew that's not as hard as it should be. So you can tell the difference, because if you ever pick one up at a store or at a pet show or wherever, and it just looks really dark, it's just got like that dark red or dark brown look to the marrow, that probably came from a deer or an elk that was hunted or shot. So the ones you want to look for are the ones that are nice and white. That means it's fully calcified and all the blood is drained out. It's nutrient dense, it's hard. You're not going to have issues with splintering and whatnot. So when it comes to, so now what I want to talk about is selecting the right chew for your pup. There's basically two kinds that you can buy. There's whole ones, which basically mean just that. They're the whole piece, cut from the rack. And then there's split ones. Split ones literally mean just that also, that we take a whole piece and cut it in half and expose the marrow. So this is probably one of the biggest questions, along with how long do they last, which I'll address later, that we get. And as far as the whole versus split argument, in my opinion, I'd say 8 to 9 out of 10 dogs out there should be chewing on whole pieces. Splits, in my opinion, and from what I've seen and the feedback I've gotten from literally tens of thousands of pieces sold, splits are good for first timers, meaning a dog that's never had an antler before, and you worry that they may be unsure of what to do with it. Because really, the reason that a dog is attracted to an antler is because to them it's a bone, and that marrow is yummy, it's delicious, it's nutrient dense, and it's what they want. So sometimes, if they don't know that's what they're working for, they may pick it up, look at it, sniff it, but not know what to do. But when you give them a split, you've got that hard outer casing which has been removed because the antler's been cut in half, and the marrow is right there, ready for them to get after it. So if that's the scenario, a split's is a good choice. Now, one of the things that you need to keep in mind with splits is they're not going, especially with healthy dogs with healthy mouth, healthy teeth. They're not going to last anywhere near as long as a whole piece will, only because that hard outer casing is not there to protect the marrow. They've got direct access, and trust me, they're going to get right to work on it. And we've given split pieces to our heavy chewers here in our home, and I mean they can get through those things in a couple days versus a whole piece, which can last weeks, months on end. So another good option as far as who splits are good for is for puppies. When they're young, when they're teething, when their chew strength and their teeth aren't as developed, that's another good option just to get them going, get them used to the antler. One of the things that we've always done with all our dogs, and we've always had dogs since they were very, very young, is the only chew we've ever given them is Antlers. And it's paid off in dividends. And what I mean is, when they grow up with Antlers, they're not tempted by other things in the house. We've literally never had a chewing accident in our house. No shoes, no remotes, no sunglasses, nothing, because nothing else is as appealing as an antler for them. And we always, for obvious reasons, have several of them available for our pups. So, and what I mean is that decision has paid off in dividends. Now that we have a toddler, a baby, we have lots of toys, lots of little plastic pieces, dolls, stuffed animals, literally laying all over the place. And our dogs are never tempted to go and pick one up or chew them or tear them apart. So that's a big added bonus. So something for all you to keep in mind, especially if you are starting a family or planning on having kids and have dogs. You don't want to be dealing with situations like that. Antler is a perfect thing to have in your house. And trust me, you're not denying them anything by not giving them other stuff. I mean, there really is, in my opinion, no other chew that your dog should have, because most things out there, you walk into a pet store, what do you see when you get into the chew section? Pretty much everything is synthetic, plastic. A lot of that stuff's coming from China, places where there isn't as much regulation. And it's just not a risk that we want to take, and quite frankly, you shouldn't either. And then, there are other all-natural options like pig ears and bully sticks, and some of those options are good, but A, they don't last as long as an antler will. And then also, especially when it comes to like the organ parts and the body parts, like the pig ears and stuff, they can be pretty stinky and in a lot of cases very messy. So have fun with that if you've got nice light colored carpet and you give your dog a big bully stick or a couple pig ears or something. So, and I still read about people giving their dogs rawhides. Please don't. That's pretty much the worst chew that you can give your pup. So definitely say no to rawhides. Most of them are chemically treated. I've talked to a lot of different vets, and by far one of the biggest chewing injuries that they have to deal with is from rawhides, because what happens is when they're chewing on that stuff, it gets really soft and mushy, and a lot of times the dog could end up accidentally swallowing it, and it can get lodged either in their throat or their intestines, and it's just a nightmare you don't want to deal with. So we've talked about whole versus splintering. As far as how long they last, that's probably exactly, Terry, no rawhide. As far as how long they last, that's pretty much the number one question I get, especially when we do shows. And the honest answer is it depends. I know people don't like hearing that, but it depends. It all depends on basically two factors: how big of what size you got your pup, and actually three things: what size you got for your dog, how aggressive of a chewer they are, and how long you let them chew it. So let's start with the size. One of the biggest things I see is that people underbuy for their pups, whether it's to save money or they just don't think that their dog will enjoy a big piece. And that's definitely the opposite of what you want to do. If anything, if you're ever either not certain or your dog is right on that borderline, you want to go to the next size up. A perfect example is our Bella. She's 13, 14 years old, about 45 pounds, and all day and night she'll go for the extra large and jumbo sized ones and loves them. Just to give you kind of an idea of where you want to be depending on your pup. If you're in that like 5 to 20, 25 pound range, you're going to want to be like either extra small or small, depending on the pup. If you're in that 20 to 45 pound range, you're going to want to be looking at mediums. If you're in that 45 to 70 pound range, large. That 65 to 85 pound range, extra large. And then 85 and beyond, we've got two sizes for that. We've got jumbo and monster. And like I said, if you're unsure, if your dog's 35, 40 pounds, but they're just a super aggressive chewer, even though technically you're in that medium range, go with a large, go with an extra large. One of the big things at Devil Dog is we do have the 100% Happy Tails guarantee. So if it's the wrong size, your dog's not happy, it's too big, they're intimidated, whatever the issue is, send us an email. We will take care of you 100% of the time, no questions asked. But believe me when I tell you that 9 out of 10 times, your dog's going to thank you and love you for getting them the bigger size. So the other big question that I get, and it's always the elephant in the room, is safety. Every once in a while, I get someone that says to me, I'd never give my dog an antler because I heard that it's bad for the teeth. It can damage their teeth. And this is what I have to say about that. Can it happen? Absolutely. It can happen with any hard chew out there, not just antlers. And pretty much 99.99% of the time, when an incident does happen, which is very rare, it's because the wrong size was purchased. Antlers are dogs are meant to grind on the antlers. They're not meant to clamp down on them or try to snap them in half. So what happens is if you've got a large dog, say a German Shepherd or, a large American Bulldog, and you get them a medium, well, they're going to be able to pretty much just get their entire mouth around it, clamp down hard, and that's not what you want. You basically want the dog to not be able to close their mouth all the way. You want them to be able to just wrap their teeth around the antler and just start grinding away. Because that motion is basically the toothbrush, the plaque remover for the teeth. Which if you're buying the right size consistently for your pups, you're going to notice that next time you take them to the vet, they're going to make comments about their teeth, about how clean they are, because that will just get everything off of there, the plaque, the tartar buildup, all that stuff. And more importantly, that grinding motion is going to help them go through the antler slowly and really have no risk of splintering. And now that I just said the word splintering, that's another big question I get. Do antlers splinter? Yes and no. So our antlers, if you're buying the right size, no, they do not splinter. You have to remember that when these elk and deer and moose are full grown, these are 1,000-pound plus creatures that are ramming into each other with their racks at full force, and these antlers don't break. So if they can do that, I promise you that if it's a fresh piece, your dog's not going to be able to splinter or break the antler. The only time you run into issues with splintering is when you buy, for lack of a better word, a crappy piece. And what does that mean? So there's different types of grading that antlers are given. There's grade A, grade B, and then grade C and below. Grade A is your fresh stuff. It's the stuff that has naturally fallen off the elk, that's 1 to 2 seasons old, and that hasn't had a lot of exposure to, bad elements, rainstorms, falling into a creek, stuff like that. Once you get to grade B and C, that's when the antler has been sitting out for a couple years, was exposed to a lot of moisture, has had critters that have burrowed through it. And those are, you can pretty much tell a grade B and C antler. A, it's what you find in most pet stores because they're cheap. and you can just see tons of cracks in them. They just look old and weathered. So one of the things is we never ever deal in B and C. We basically not only deal in A, but we only deal in the top 5% of A. So our supplier knows how picky we are and how demanding our customers are. And I promise you that any antler you get from us is going to be grade A plus. So that kind of answers that question of, should I worry about splintering? As far as the grading. Now, the only way that really you might see some splintering from a premium antler is, once again, if you get the wrong size. If you buy a small for, let's say a boxer or a pit bull or a very strong chewer, there's a chance that they can break off a piece just because it's not the appropriate size. Same thing if you get a split for a hard chewer. They may be able to, scrape off some big chunks from of marrow out of there. And it's not that it's splintering. It's just that because it's exposed and it's not an appropriate piece for your dog and they're a strong chewer, that could happen. So definitely, understand that if you're getting the right size and you're getting the right cut, that shouldn't be an issue at all for your pup. So, and once again, we've got an awesome team here. Sam, our operations manager, and myself, we handle customer service. We don't outsource that. I know a lot of companies are using overseas VAs and all that. We don't believe in that. We want you guys to get nothing but the best information. So if you ever have any questions, concerns, doubts, not sure what size, what cut to get, email us. We're more than happy to kind of guide you, ask the right questions, and get the perfect piece for your pup. So let me look at some of the comments here. I know Sam's been on the computer trying to answer any questions that may have come up. At this point, does anyone have any questions? Jody, wonder if I should try a split one for Teddy. He had no desire to touch a full one. Yeah, I mean, one of the things too is we've got some pretty big, harder splits, meaning that there's splits that come from the base of the rack, which is the hardest piece, and those aren't going to have as much give as, like, say, one of the branches that's very porous. So we've got 3 different bigger size splits. We've got jumbos, extra large, and monsters. So yeah, I mean, let's chat offline, and I can kind of give you some advice as to which one would be best for Teddy, and hopefully he'll like that. We've got splits for smaller dogs. It's funny because we actually don't have anything in the middle, just because, once again, I don't think that they're needed. We've got them for the smaller dogs and puppies, and then we've got harder splits for that are really big and more of that hard marrow, which is in the base of the rack. For the bigger dogs that for whatever reason just prefer splits. So yeah, we'll definitely take care of you, Jody. The best. Thanks, Terry. Excellent customer care. You know it, Jody. Preach. Let's see. Any other questions? All right. Well, I don't want to keep dragging this out. One of the things that I want to do as a sign of appreciation for those of you that are either jumping on right now on the live or jumping on the replay is I want to get back to you guys. So do me a favor, either now or after we wrap this up. In the comments, drop a picture of your dog. The sillier, the better. And then one of the things that we plan on doing moving forward is every Thursday night at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, one of us from the team here is going to do a live. It'll either be Amanda, myself, or Sam. And so for next week, what we'll do is, Sam's going to be the one doing the live. I'll go through the comments, and I'll just randomly pick a name from anyone that posts a picture of their dog, and we'll give you a $10 credit that you can use at on the Devil Dog Petco website for any product that we offer. So get those pictures in there, and I'll wait another 30 seconds or so to see if any other questions come through. Yes, Jody, we'll talk. Absolutely, we'll take great care of Teddy. He is one of Devil Dog Petco's ambassadors, so we love him and appreciate you and him. So we will definitely take great care of you guys. Yeah, Myra, they are the best. You know, like I said earlier, it's all our dogs have ever had and will have. You know, I can't imagine giving our pups anything else outside of Antler chews. Let us know where you're tuning in from. It's kind of cool to see, you know, all the people that we've sold antlers to across the country. So it's just kind of fun, you know, for us to see and for other people that are tuning in to see, you know, how big of a presence we have all across the country. So would love and appreciate if you dropped a hello and where you're tuning in from. All right, so wrap it up. Make sure that you drop a picture in there of your dog. The sillier, the better. Next week, we're going to be doing another live. I'm not sure what the topic is. It's going to be Sam. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. It's just going to blow it out of the water. And next week, we'll pick a winner, and you will get a $10 credit that you can use on any product on our website. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope I did a decent job. Like I said, I was a little nervous going into this, but all of you have been great. I appreciate the comments, the feedback, the questions. And just remember, we're here to serve you and your pups. Have a good night.